All right. Good morning, Daniel. How you doing today out there in
Hey,
the East Coast?
yes,
You
I
guys
am
don't
well.
really I know we always talk about the East Coast. You guys don't really um you know care about us out here in the West Coast. Everything that you guys do is out in the East Coast. I'm
Nah,
waiting for you and Emilio to come out to the West Coast.
it'll happen. It'll
Okay.
definitely happen. I promise.
So
Yep.
Well, listen. So I'm looking forward to the interview. I got to do you and your husband together, but we get you all by yourself today. So we're going to talk a
Yeah.
little bit about what your accomplishments are and what the book
hmm
that you've written, the new book that you're writing, and what that looks like. And
hmm
so, with no further ado, I'm going to have you go ahead and introduce yourself, and then we'll get in on with the interview. Does that sound good?
Yes, thank you, Mark. So I
All
want to thank
right.
you, first of all, for having me on. I am honored to be here. You know, Amelia and I have much love and respect for you. So thank you. And I am Danielle Roman, and the other half, I should say better half, of Emilio and Daniela. and
Did you say the better half? No,
isn't that what most people say?
no. Oh my god.
I'm just kidding.
We know we Emilio knows what the truth is.
hmm Oh, I said I'm the better half. That's not the
Oh, you're
truth.
the better half. You are the
Dang.
better. I thought you said, and my better half. I was going to go like,
No.
no, no, come
Come
on.
on, Mark.
He uses crayons to write with and stuff. Come
He
on,
eats crayons.
that's
That's what
correct.
my son gets on him. It's funny. He's Air Force, Emilio being Marines. You can imagine that banter.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So
Oh yeah. The
it's
Air
fun.
Force is getting made fun of big time.
Oh,
Um,
yeah. So, yeah, I am, Emilio and I have something called the Co-Author Network, and we help people share their story with the world. And we've also expanded to AMA, Author Millionaire Academy, where, we have a mission to help people make $1 million leveraging their story. So, we can get into that a little bit later if you like.
mhm.
And I also have a book, Behind Closed Doors. I Survived Domestic Violence and You Can Too. And that came about because of my story, which has to do with domestic violence.
Yeah. So we're going to talk a little bit about that today. I think that's one of the main reasons we have you on is to kind of bridge this gap. In
hmm
my business where I have a lot of people that a lot of women that come take women's self-defense classes, and then it's pretty prevalent to by far to see how many people have had some kind of a trauma
Mm,
in their, and it comes out. I'm not trying to get a woman to break free of how they feel, you know what I mean,
right.
and the fear that they have is it's a task. I mean, I've had them where they're crying and hitting people. I've had them where they're so pissed off that it is fun to watch them hit people. Uh, we got these big suits, that, we have this big helmet and we have all this, and they get to really
hmm
hit and they really get to do see what it looks like to, to fight when they have to fight and try to break through some of those fears.
Yeah.
But some are really, it's really tough. Some are just so broken that, they'll run out of the studio. Even I've had all the gamuts of that happening in women's self defense classes over the years I've been doing this. So, but if I remember right now, part of your first book. Now, do you have different stories in there? Is that correct? Is that's how surviving it? Let's talk about the first one.
Yes. So the first edition, it is both of them are co-authorships. It's not just me writing the book.
Hmm.
So yeah, this first edition had 11 co-authors in here sharing their stories of surviving domestic violence and how they got out and where they are now, and more for. I always tell my co-authors, it's not about bashing the other person or putting any names out there because we don't do that. It's just share your experience, but leave it on a positive note and to inspire other women, especially young girls that are getting in these relationships younger and younger, that they don't have to stay stuck in this, and you can get out and be successful. And like a lot of these are entrepreneurs, they ended up having their own business or on a mission with domestic violence organizations, so things of that nature. So yeah, we have the second one is also the same. We're going to have 12 co-authors sharing their stories of surviving domestic violence.
And so, with we're both on the CLA, right? The Connected Leaders
Yes.
Academy. And have you met more friends through there? Um, that
For the
have
book,
for have you met more women through the CLA that you've been able to connect with that have this a similar story as yours?
I have connected with a couple from the CLA, but I mean, they're not in the book or plan on being in the book, but I have
Hmm.
connected with some women that, have gone through domestic violence. A lot of the women that are in the second edition, they have been referred to me, whether it was through, a friend or someone that was in this book before, or, things like that. So it's more like just getting referrals from other women or organizations. Mhm.
So let's talk. So what's the difference between the first book and the second book, and why did you decide to do a second one on there? Jose saying hi, by the way. You see him right there.
Hey, hello, Jose.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
Oh, Anilda. Hello, Anilda. So
yeah.
the idea of the first edition, second edition is exactly the same. They're just I just moved on to the second edition because I had such a great response with the first one. So um, you know, at the January Business Book Camp is where I launched the first one. Jose was there, and it went number one bestseller that day that we launched it. That was pretty exciting because we had everybody there. So because of the response I got, I wanted to put out another one just to it needs more awareness. Domestic violence is not just here. It's a global epidemic. It really is. So it needs more attention and more awareness brought to it. So that's why I did the second edition.
So you talk about the domestic violence now over your experience and all the women that you speak with, because I think you were just at another conference this weekend too,
Yeah.
correct? It
Yes.
was it was
Yesterday.
that a woman's conference or what?
It
Yeah.
was I'm Still Standing by Maria Grande. She puts that on, and it's really survivors of anything. We had cancer survivors there, domestic violence
Oh,
survivors,
gotcha.
sexual assault. Yeah, so it was just a collaboration of like
Hmm.
whatever women have survived. So yeah, that was a great experience yesterday.
Have you seen any? Have you come across any of domestic violence the opposite way? You have any guys ever talk to you about it?
You know what? No, but I would love that. I'm open to that, and I put that out there that I would love to have a man's perspective, man's story in my book. I would totally accept that, but I haven't had any men come forth and want to do that, which I
So it's
understand why.
well, right, because no guy's gonna go.
Yeah,
No guy in my circle is ever gonna go. Oh, my wife smacked me or something. No, it's just not.
yeah,
So I've always. But on the same token, you can talk to some guys. It's not the hitting as much as the just the
verbal.
mental, just verbal beatdown that guys are a
Hmm.
little bit different. We kind of go in a cave,
Yeah.
right? And we just be quiet, ride the storm,
Hmm.
and if the next day's better, we're just going to take that day and be good with it. You know what I mean? But you know
Yep.
how it is. It gets relentless after a while, and it's that's just what happens with guys. So I've looking at it, there's always a lot of domestic violence things, but never do you see a man jump on that bandwagon. It's
No.
it's 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 pretty amazing.
Yeah,
So
and
I
they
thought,
should. They should. In my opinion, they should because once they're out of the relationship, they have I know it's the whole ego and whatever, but men have healing to do too. You know what I mean? And have to deal with that, and or else they're just bringing that into everything else in their life, into the next relationship, and into their business, whatever it is they're doing. So they need to speak out just like women do. They really do, but it's a whole different
mm,
dynamic there.
yeah. Well, how did your story in the book? What when you talk about surviving, what does that mean? Were you was it attacked where you're kind of in your face and getting screamed at all the time? Were you hit? What was that looking like? What does that look like?
Yeah, so the first edition, what I did the forward, and that's where I kind of touched on what my experience was. I had two abusive relationships, and this goes way back. My abusive relationship was when I was started at 17 until I was about mid 20s. So, yeah, it was, at the beginning, like any relationship, like most relationships, it's, first of all, I was very young, and this first person was like 11 years older than me.
Ah,
So, but me, if you knew how I grew up in a very strict Italian household. I had that, that straight from Italy Italian dad who didn't let the daughter do anything. So when I left home at 18, so that was like letting an animal out of a cage, because not that my parents didn't. I mean, my dad was, I always say he's like the wisest man I've ever known. He barely finished eighth grade, but he's taught me like everything about life. So he, prepared me for life, but like unless you experience things, you can't really know until you're in it, right?
Mm.
So, I left home at 18, kind of just very trusting, very naive, not knowing a lot of things that were out there. And I say this all the time. I mean, I was sexually assaulted in my sleep when I was 19. And at 19 years old, I seriously had no clue that stuff like this even happened. That's how sheltered or, naive I was to like what goes on in the world. And that, I believe, I always say hurt me and scarred me more than the domestic violence, because that was just, I couldn't even imagine. Like, I could not believe something like that happened, right, to me. So, again, like coming out and trusting this person, at the beginning, honeymoon stage, all that, and then it begins, right? They kind of suck you in, and then it begins, and then you're already in, and being that young and not even realizing what's happening, how do you get out, right? So it took me a couple years of, hardly seeing my parents because I wouldn't go because of black eyes or bruises. I had broken ribs, stuff like that. And I couldn't go see them because, the one time I did visit them, and I'm a tall girl. I'm not a little person, right? I had to be about 100 pounds. And that looks sick on somebody that's like 5'8", and my dad's like, he seriously thought I had a disease, but it was the stress and everything I had been going through that I didn't share with them, but obviously it shows, and
Mm.
so it caused a lot of issues with my family because I'm very close with my family, but that I stayed away. And that's what most people do. You're isolated when you're in these relationships.
Yeah, that's interesting I'm trying to listening to your story, and I'm like, and my daughter, um, I have a daughter. She's 21 now. She had a relationship, I think, when they were 19,
Mhm.
and I spoke to her about this, about don't be pressured,
Mhm.
and and she was pressured. Uh, but luckily, I don't know if you agree with this or not. At least she has the wherewithal to come and speak to me about it and say, "Hey, Dad, this is what's." And not to mention, I would probe. I mean, I'd be asking. I said, "Hey, I see you kind of moping around. Is everything okay? Is he
Mhm.
being respectful? Is is
Right.
is is he pushing you to do something you do not want to do?" And then it gets, of course, it get brought out that, well, yes, I've got, he keeps asking Dad. I say no, but and I said, you want that to stop? And she goes, yes. And I said, okay. So I made it stop.
Oh,
You know what I
okay.
mean? So him
So
and
is
I
he
had,
still alive?
well,
I'm just kidding.
that was that conversation coming from a dad when your daughter comes and says, "Hey, I'm being
Mhm.
pressured."
Yeah.
Yeah, I was pissed. Okay, and I don't know if it's the best thing I ever did. It's not my highlight reel for sure, but he definitely was in the living room, and I got up in his face,
Mm.
right, and I said, "Stand up," and he stood up. He's a little taller than me, but you can feel him breathing hard, and and I'm intent, right, and I
Mhm.
put my hand on his heart, and he's beating really fast. I said, "You feel that?" That's exactly how women feel when you keep on doing this to them.
Mhm.
And I said, and if you keep on doing it, I said, you're going to go away here in an ambulance. I can tell you that for a fact. And then, afterwards, and of course, my daughter tells me that even afterwards, she didn't tell me everything, right? And just how the words, man, some of the stuff he'd say, or about their bodies, or what you're wearing, and just kind of a verbal beatdown, right? And I'm like,
Yeah.
she tells me 2 years after the fact, and I'm already
Oh.
hot and bothered. I said, you want me to go back and talk to him again? Because this one will be a different conversation.
Mhm.
And, but it was, it's hard for me. I'm, women in general, I'm a lot softer on, even in my own school. You can ask everybody, oh,
Mhm.
it's one of the girls, Mr. Cox favors the girls, whatever. You know what I mean? I
Yeah.
wasn't always like that until I had a daughter. Then when I had a daughter, it
Mm.
kind of softened me. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? because you know
Yeah.
how women are. We have to talk to you, and it's not like my sons. I'm like, man, you better shut up or I'll knock the
Yep. And
snot
that's
right
it.
out of you, okay? And and it's like, I didn't hear you hear it. When I say something, you better say yes, sir. Right? This is how, you know,
Mm-hmm.
you can't do that to your daughter at all.
Right.
And so
Mm-hmm.
I was
Yeah.
like,
Not
I was
today.
and you have to talk, and then they start crying. You girls got this tear duct stuff that comes out, and it just that's unfair fighting.
A little
I
powerful, right?
I tell my cat that all the time. I
Yeah.
said, don't cry when we're disagreeing on something. That's unfair tactics, and
Yeah.
because I can't cry, because then I'm like a wuss. So you know. So that's it. So interesting on just that. Just listening to your story of being 19 years old, I can't imagine. You think you have the world by the tail right at 19, but you really just are so naive to what's going on out there. So on the
Yeah.
second book now, are you going to do another forward? Or are you actually having chapters? Uh, and when do you try and have this book released on number two?
Yeah, it's going to be released January when your book is going to be released. So it's
Oh,
going to be
okay.
released, yep, at the Business Book Camp in January. So it is, whoever's coming in now, it is cutting it kind of close, but they will have time to get their chapter. And here's the thing, it's 1,500 words, right? So if you have written, and even if you haven't, I think Mark, the way Amelia and I work. I mean, we help you, guide you, through the whole process.
Hmm.
But writing a chapter can be done in a matter of hours. And believe me, once people, especially with, stories like these, it just flows. I had someone message me, one of my co-authors, she forgot and she goes, I have 3,000 words. Is that good? I'm like, you got to cut that in half because, it's only 1,500. But she's like, I didn't even realize it just kept coming out, and, so it's not really that difficult,
so
time wise.
so how many more stories are you looking for at this time?
I have two available
You have two more spots.
chapters. Yeah.
So, um, so if we have somebody, they can get contact with you. Is that correct?
Yes, they can reach out to me either through Facebook, Daniela Roman, or my email, championofwomen@gmail.com.
Championofwomen.com. Now, what will this book be called? Is this going to be another one behind
It's going
like
to be
close
exactly the same. Yeah, it's going to be
exactly
exactly
the
the same.
same?
Yep.
It said volume
It's
two,
second edition.
correct?
It's it.
Second
Exactly.
edition. Okay.
Hmm.
Okay. All right. So we'll look for that. I think I tried to send someone your way, but I guess it didn't work out on
Yeah,
that. Because she has quite a story, believe it or
she
not.
does. Yes.
And
Hmm.
it's pretty awesome to watch her because it was hard on her, man, to be in here and for me to try and break through her also. Um, and it's
Hmm.
helped. I think it's helped that she married a really cool dude. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And so when you got that support system, it's a little bit easier to kind of talk about what needs to be talked about
Hmm.
and all that kind of stuff. So I'm glad that Rachel was able to at least talk to you. So we'll see
Oh yeah.
in the
Yeah,
future
maybe down the
what can
line.
happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some
So
women they're just not ready.
so so that's good. So you're looking for another two more females to do a chapter in the
Hmm.
book. Has to be relatively pretty quick to write a chapter out for it,
Hmm.
and then and this release will be on the same weekend as we are.
Yes.
Then
January 6th and 7th. Hmm.
what made you decide to do a second volume?
Just the response I got from the first one, and a lot of people reached out and they were inspired, and the women in the first one, people that reached out to them, it really just solidified like, yeah, this is I'm on the right path of like getting more awareness to this. Like I said earlier, it's a global epidemic, and
Mm,
women still feel like they don't have options. Like I have a resource page in here, so that even helps women to know where they can go for help, because some women think they just have to stay stuck, and they don't. And especially today, my story goes back 30 plus years, right? And there were resources, but a lot less than there are today. I mean, fast forward 30 years, there's so many women's organizations and safe havens, and places that women can go. They don't have to stay years like we did.
yeah, I think there's a couple things that took place, right? That continue to help the movement. I think the OJ trial was one of them that made
Mm,
you that brought awareness for sure. And Daniela, for to be like a devil's advocate, there's always
Hmm.
something. I was in law enforcement for a while, right?
Yeah.
And for devil's advocate, there was a long time too that you could use abuse as a way to just um, if a police officer came to the house and the wife said, "Oh, he hit me," or he did whatever, it's just go by the word,
Yes.
and it was guilty,
That's
okay,
it.
until you prove yourself innocent. And so there was an abuse of that. Also, for a long time, it was a way to get a quick restraining order, a kick out order,
Yeah.
or whatever. So if there was an affair or something going on, and then as police officers, when you show up and it's like, for a fact that,
Hmm.
and there's nothing that we could do. So this was the right. So you get all, this is the dirty secret about it, right? Is and
Hmm.
how it can be abused just as much as it can be helpful, because
Yeah.
you just don't know. You don't know when you show up.
Hmm.
You know, if
Yeah.
there's any marks, of course, there's any marks now. Now it's a little bit even more prevalent though. If there's any marks on a male this time, you can end up getting put in the bracelets and going off. You know what I mean? So
Definitely. Yeah. Yeah.
so that's just one of those. That's one of those things that you know I, that I've personally seen. So,
Yeah.
but
And it's, go ahead.
good. I'm glad that I'm glad there's some books out there for this, and it seems like those seems like an easy read. I don't have that book.
Yeah.
I probably should get it.
I thought
And
I sent that to you.
no, I don't have that book.
Oh,
Mm-mm.
well, I'll definitely send you one.
Yeah, because I think what I like in my self defense, because I'm going to be able to use you now, because I'll be, I'm doing that speaker competition you guys are having in
Hmm.
November.
Yes.
But the day before, I have a massive women's self defense class that I'm teaching there in Georgia.
Cool. Cool.
And if you send me the book, if
Hmm.
you can get that out this week, because I leave
Yeah.
next Wednesday,
Okay.
I'll bring that book with me. And I
Hmm.
will even let women know in that class, hey, she has 2 more spots,
Okay.
because I'm probably going to have anywhere from 50 to 60 women in that class
Oh,
that
that's
day.
awesome.
Okay.
All
And
right.
then I can always use these stories inside here. This is, uh, and you'd be surprised, you'd be surprised that sometimes mama bears come out. Sometimes you have to kind of push them out. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
One thing I will tell you though, that anybody that's a mother, and I can push that button and women will explode into, being aggressive and what they need to do. And
Yeah.
if I mess up their hair, they seem not to like that, and they
Hmm.
really want to elbow you in the face.
I'm
So
sure.
there's that. I've learned that if I really need to get something out of somebody, I'll rub the top of her hair and mess up her hair, and that just doesn't. That's
That doesn't go well. Now Mark knows how to get to me because with this mop, he's like, "Yeah, I'm just gonna mess with that mop." Yep.
so. I told you, I think too, when I come out there, if I'm going to come out early on our book weekend, right? I'm
Yeah.
coming out a day early, so
Oh,
if
good.
you get a group of females, I'll bring some pads with me. You know what I mean, in
Okay.
my luggage, and
Okay.
if there's a group of women that want to get after it a little bit, I'll teach a little class out there. We'll
Oh, that would
find a
be
place to do
awesome.
it.
Definitely.
So
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We know exactly where we can do it. Our favorite park in the world, Cooper River Park, where you see us do our walks, all that. They got spots. Be perfect.
yeah, so
Mhm.
I'll come out early and we'll talk about that. So well, that's good. So we'll help promote that through. So let's talk about some of the other stuff that you do.
Mhm.
Daniela, let's talk about. I've got to meet you guys, so everybody has an idea where our relationship started. It actually started through Jose's the one that
Connected us. Yeah.
connected us, right?
Mhm.
And I've always had this idea of writing a book. And when I first talked to Emilio, of course, talking to Emilio is, him and I we're pretty similar in, right? Uh,
Personalities. Yes.
yes, personality wise.
Mhm.
And so I said, oh, I kind of, and then I remember talking to Jose afterwards, and he said, hey, I'm with them also. And I said, I was so apprehensive at first, right, to
Yeah.
do it, because I'm like, can I do this? Number one, and I just didn't know anything about it. I didn't
Right.
know anything about it. You think that it's super easy. Now it is super easy to throw a book up on Amazon, But I'll
Right.
tell you what, you certainly don't get paid. I'm
Mm-mm.
going to tell you that.
Yeah.
And so you can throw a book up there, you can put a book together, but the process is to go through it. And you remember me in the beginning, I was super apprehensive. I was
Oh yeah.
asking questions after questions, and I'm like, man.
Yeah.
And then finally, I just said, I can't. I'm struggling
Mm-hmm.
writing it. You know what I
Right.
mean? And I can tell the stories. I
Mm-hmm.
can be in front of a group of people and tell the stories, but I'm having trouble on
Yeah, it's
taking it from
different
point
putting
A
it
to
on
point
paper.
B, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so you guys had said, you guys introduced me to, part of your service was to kind of guide us to what we have to do, right? And he says, well,
Right.
there is ghostwriting. And I thought ghostwriting was somebody just writes the book and I put my name on it. That's
Mm.
what I really thought it was.
Mm-hmm.
I I was so naive in the business of book writing anyway. I was like, man, I was just such a virgin in it, right? And so I was like,
Mm-hmm.
and then you guys, I met you guys turned me on to Abigail, and then
Right.
I hired her, and then the process started to unfold, right? And because of so the co-author network is who we who I signed up with, and that's yours and Emilio's company, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
And so she would sit with me every week. We'd have this thing, a discussion, almost like what we're doing right here on Zoom. And she
Right.
will give me your stories, and I would tell my stories of this thing, how I got started in this, how the deaths that I had to deal with in my studio, students that have passed away, and how hard it was for me, and all this stuff. And then she would take my stories and be able to transcribe them into words, and then
Mm-hmm.
I would go in there and edit through. Okay, this event is a little bit different, and so it made the process awesome, you
Yeah.
know. And so the other thing that your company did, so anybody that's kind of looking to write books, if you're listening to this, what the next thing is, I've yet to see a company. I see all kinds of publishing companies, but I've yet to see anybody put it out there. You have me on your shows,
Right.
okay? Granted, it's 4 a.m., but
Yes.
you know, but on those 4 a.m. shows, just so you know, I go to bed a little early. I get up early. I take a shower. I'm ready to go. And after that, I do my workout. And every time I do it, I said I should get up at 4 o'clock every day because I get
Yeah.
so
See.
much work done. From
Yeah.
4 to 8, I get so much
Mm-hmm.
work done that I can
Yep.
almost take the day off. You know what I
Right.
mean? And
Mm-hmm.
so I tell myself every time, I said I should just get up at 4, but then I never do it.
Yeah.
Uh, so I tell myself I should do it, but I don't do it.
Yeah.
And so you guys promote us and you
Mm-hmm.
put it out there. Even when we had our covers, you guys do the covers for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And then you do a mock book so that we can have a book that is
Like
there. It
that.
is. There it is right there.
There
Just like
it
that one,
is.
right?
Like
Beyond the
on the
mat.
mat.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And
Awesome.
so this has been an awesome, and I've had pre-sales. Now I think I'm in the realm of, I want to say I've sold one either between 125 to 145
That's awesome.
in books, right?
Mm-hmm.
To try and cover cost. Because
Yeah.
let's be honest, I told everybody, hey, I'm going to be honest with you, man. There's a cost to write a book. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so if you're going to invest in it, if you, I don't know. I guess if you're a writer, you can sit down and write, but you're still going to have it edited. Somebody's
Yeah.
going to have to go through it,
Put it
and then
together.
you're going to
Yeah.
have to look through the edits. And this is what I was just doing the other night. I was just going through some final edits of my own book the other night, and I don't know, how do you deal with that when you're going through your final edits, right? I read through it and I'm like, oh man, I don't like the way this sounds. And yeah, I want you to tell everybody else, because this is one thing. If you're going to do kind of like what I did, which is kind of
Mm-hmm.
like my life or whatever, I've told you and Emilio this before. I have the hardest time speaking about myself, right?
Yeah.
And um, and then so when I hear it read back, and I'm like, oh man, do I sound like an arrogant jerk off or what? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So how do you get people to get past? Some people don't mind talking about themselves. I'm just not one of them.
Yeah.
So how do you get past that?
Yeah. And you know what? To tell you the truth, I haven't had too many people really have that issue. They just kind of do it. I guess they work through it themselves because I mean, I think you're one of the first ones that actually said it out loud. Like I have a problem, an issue speaking about myself. But I would just say, you know what? it's not about ego. You got to leave the ego aside. You're sharing your story to help someone else. So it's not like, when you look at it that way, it's not you bragging about yourself, or like, even when I speak about my experiences, it's not about, and there's nothing to brag about in that kind of experience. So it's obviously just helping the other person, helping other women that are either in this kind of situation or have been. And for you, I know some of your story, that's going to help so many, especially young kids, that have been bullied, or have gone through whatever it is you've gone through. So you're not bragging about yourself, you're sharing experiences to help other people. That's how you have to look at it, because that is truly what it is.
Yeah, and I had to come to grips with some of it because there was a part of the book they wanted to talk about. You don't I don't really speak about my rank and everything very often
Mm-hmm.
because it sounds so mystical sometimes. Even me, I guess, because I still train and I train hard, and um, I'm still kind of on the low end of the jujitsu scale, right? I'm
Mm-hmm.
not by any means even in a black belt in that area.
Okay.
But my initial art, right? Because I own, I'm my instructor's highest rank. I'm the highest rank in the system underneath my instructor. And
Okay.
not a lot of people know that because I just don't talk about it. Because when
Mm-hmm.
you hear somebody say, "Oh, I'm an eighth degree or a ninth degree," it sounds so cliche, right? And I'm like, it sounds, even when I hear it, I'm like, an eighth or ninth degree. What does that mean? I'll tell you what it means. It means I'm old as dirt. That's what it means. Uh, it means I've been doing this forever. I don't have some
Mm-hmm.
mystical thing that I
Yeah.
can blow on you and it's going to take your heart out of your system. You know what I mean? Uh, and so I just always had a hard time on what that looks like. Ranking is just like anything else. A master chef or whatever you want to, like what you want to do. It's just somebody that's been doing something and can teach something and have taught people how to do it, or
Mm-hmm.
and I've promoted, you know, hundreds and hundreds of black belts, and I've taught thousands and thousands of people, right? And but I guess what it is, Daniel, when you're kind of in the moment,
Yeah.
you don't really see how big the moment is. I don't know if you've ran that in with other people. I didn't realize that until I read through the book again. I read all of it. I went through everything on Sunday. That was my Sunday, was going through my entire book again and reading through and just me reminiscing back, like, wow, I when you step out of it and you look back in and you're like, man, I can't believe I did all that stuff.
Right.
You know
Exactly.
what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And
I think
yeah.
one thing that you say all the time, I hear you and me, Emilio, say it all the time, is
Mm-hmm.
if we don't tell our story,
Someone else will.
that's
And it
correct.
won't be how you would tell it. And here's the thing, before I forget, all the accolades that you were saying, especially in what you do, because bullying is a real personal thing to me, because my son was bullied all through grade school, and that was just heartbreaking. And so for you, the main thing, not that you're bragging and everything, that you're eighth degree, ninth degree, whatever it is you've accomplished, you want to really highlight that, because that is going to show those kids that are insecure and have no confidence and are being bullied, that, look, I went through this and look where I am. You can get there. You know what I mean? That's so inspiring to young, especially young men. You know what I mean? They're very, men feel like they have to be macho and, and not show emotions and this, that, but they go through stuff. And I just saw my son. And today, my son's 29 years old. And believe me, because of what happened to him, I mean, he went into the Air Force. He's done well, but that still stays with him, because I see how he is with his son. He's like, my son's not going to be bullied, so that stays. He's already teaching our little grandson Tomas, like, you're going to defend yourself. He's getting him into uh, karate or something very soon. He just turned 4, so I think he's going to start getting, because that stays with you.
Hmm.
But it's good, like, don't look at it as bragging. You are inspiring these young boys that think, they can't do anything, or they're being so beat down mentally that, they're not going to be able to accomplish. But look what you did, so you want to show them, yeah, you can get to that, no matter what you go through.
I think that, yeah, I think that's really some really good advice. I have it. It took me a while, and it took Abigail. Even when I went through the final edits, even some of the stuff,
Hmm.
I still changed some of the stuff in the thing. And I think on the final edit, I added some stuff because there's anybody that knows me knows kind of how I talk, right?
Hmm.
And so um, I switched a little, some of the wording up a little bit so it sounds a little bit more like me. You know what I
Right.
mean? Because in one of the chapters it talks about my mistakes as an instructor,
Mm-hmm.
and and even today I still there's some things I work on myself. Like I can walk in and I have all my parents here, and I don't always say hi to every one of them, and I should. I've
Right.
got so much on my head, and I just kind of walk in, and everybody stops. Mr. Cox is here. Everybody pay your respects, and da da da. And so, and I forget to do that, right? And I talk about this in the book about mistakes I made or not having enough affirmation. I'm not a big, hey, you did an awesome job. I'm not. You
Okay.
get a compliment from me, and for a fact that it was you. But
Mm-hmm.
I didn't realize the power of words either, uh, on how important it is to get an affirmation from the instructor that people crave it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And I don't want to give it away like candy either. You know what I mean? Because then
Right.
it doesn't mean anything anyway.
Yeah. It loses
And so
value.
I,
Yeah.
I talked about this, and I said in one of the things that I remember as a young man before I had kids, I'm like, your technique sucks. You know what I mean? That's right.
Mm-hmm.
And then some of my students today, because when I say that sucks, it's almost an affirmation. You know what I mean? Oh, Mr.
Right.
Cox says I suck today, so he's watching me, so that's awesome. You know what I mean? So
Mm-hmm.
I had to write that in the book, like all to the ones of you that just read this. I know that when I tell you suck, sometimes it's an affirmation with an LOL after it. You know what I mean? Because
Okay.
people know me, and
Right.
so I was able to do that a little bit in the book. So that was fun.
Mm-hmm.
And so on your next, what's the biggest hurdle when somebody's riding? You guys have this stuff here because I try and push people now that they should write.
Right.
I try and push them now. Every studio owner that's had a school for more than 10 years
Mm-hmm.
should write a book.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely write a book,
Absolutely.
because the stories that you're going to tell is going to be different than my stories and everything else. And I think I've talked to you about Carson before too. Carson Fortner should write a book. He's not been around as much as his, but his special needs,
Mm. Yeah.
the ability to what martial arts has done for the special needs community
Yeah.
has been
Absolutely.
awesome. And even when we were doing the books, we thought about having him come down, meet me there, and bring Austin, who's Down syndrome. Oh my! You
Oh.
cannot be in a room, okay,
Yeah.
without beaming ear to ear with this kid,
Oh.
okay. And so he's so fun, and martial arts has just changed things for him.
How old is he?
He's now how old's Austin now? He's starting to get a beard now, so
Oh.
he's probably 16 and 17 in that area now.
Oh.
We've
Okay.
had him since he's a little kid, right?
Oh.
And then he's grown up in the martial arts, and it's been awesome doing that. So how do you um what's the biggest hurdle that most people do when they sign up? So let's say our group, for instance, that's with you right now. So
Yeah.
there's a good group of us that's with Co-Author Network. What is
Mm-hmm.
the biggest hurdle that you see that most people, when they decide they want to write a book, because everybody wants to be a black belt too, just so you know, but nobody
Mm-hmm.
wants to do the work.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to go to heaven. Nobody wants to die. That's type of thing, right?
Yeah.
Uh, so what's the biggest hurdle that people get, and how can you encourage them to get past that?
Yeah, most people think it's so difficult to write a book like you did, right? At the beginning, you had no clue, and most people don't. I mean, a lot of people that we've dealt with, though, they have been writing. They're like, oh, I have a perfect example, Sister Sonia, right? Sonia Lewis.
Hmm.
She's awesome. She's been writing since she's like 8 years old. She goes, I have journals after journals after journals. So she has it written, but she just didn't know what to do with it, right? So she was a little ahead of the game because she was a writer. She's great at writing, just had to get it all together, you know what I mean, and figure out what it was, what stories she wanted to share, and get it organized. But for somebody who doesn't write, at all, they just think because I'm not a writer, I don't write, I can't get a book done. And obviously, you learn because we introduce you to ghostwriting, right? So
Right.
we
Hmm.
could take that part out of it if you don't want to be bothered with the writing. So that's the biggest thing is just people think, well, I'm not a writer, I'm not good at grammar, or I don't think, it doesn't matter. There's something, there's always, something to help you along the way, just like the ghostwriting, we have editing, so we tell people just dump, like do an outline, right? of what you want to share. Doesn't have to be in perfect sentences, not perfect grammar, just get it out. And then, we have people like Abigail that just put it all together for you.
So luckily, so I always call you guys my coaches, right? Because
Hmm.
I believe that anything you do in life, you have to have kind of a coach that's kind of pushing you along, right? And then when you're not doing things, you need a coach that's going to give you a little bit of tough love when you need it, and like get up off your ass and
Hmm.
get done. Okay, we
Right.
have deadlines to make. This is the deadline. You need to do it. And here's what I've learned: if there wasn't a deadline,
Hmm.
you'd never get it done.
Exactly.
Okay, so
Hmm.
those deadlines are a good indicator of that, because Gisela was on me, and I told her, man, I had a really busy week, man, down an
Hmm.
instructor too, and she's like, I know, but I need this by this day. And so
Hmm.
on Sunday, that's what I did. I did it all day, and so because she was on me about it, and we're coming
Hmm.
up on this, so we got to get to the very final book, and
Yep.
then it's got to be printed or whatever whatever
Hmm.
the next thing is doing. So
Hmm.
I wanted to. So both you and Amelia have both been involved in writing books for number one. So so we have coaches that have already done it, and
Right.
so you guys we get to ride your coattails on the mistakes you made for us not to make them. If people listen, people got to listen. Number one, you know what I
Yeah.
mean. You can't say that you're going to do something better on something that you've never done, right?
Right.
So it's like you've never thrown a punch, but you're going to teach me how to throw a punch, right? It just doesn't. That's not gonna
Right.
fly. And so now you've transferred the co-author network into what's called AMA. Let's talk about that. See, I even got my cup from you. You see, it's right here.
Yes, I got mine too.
See, there we go. So we having
Yes.
coffee with the AMA cup. Let's talk about what that is.
Yes. So Amelia created AMA, which is, Co-Author Network is the parent company, right? And then there's AMA Author Millionaire Academy, where it's one movement, one mission, $1 million, where we help you, the author, um, learn how to leverage your story in order to make an income. So it's not about, what we always say, like selling a million copies of your book, right? It's never that. I mean, you could, you could be. We were just watching something last night. I don't know if you're familiar with the author James Patterson. He's apparently the world's best selling author for I don't know how many years now. Sold millions and millions and millions of copies of his book. But for you or let's say Jose or other authors, it's about leveraging your story, making an impact and influencing people in order to make an income. So whether it's speaking engagements or more people promoting your while you're promoting your story, you're promoting your business, right? Your martial arts studio. That's going to bring you more people. You're going to get out there and speak. So there's 101 ways that you can make an income with your story. So that's pretty much what AMA is about. And with the membership, you've been on our weekly calls. It's about connecting, with like-minded people. So you always get some kind of value on these calls. I mean, you've been on them many times, and you see the people that hey, I'm having an issue. Like Amelia always asks, how can we serve you today, right? So someone will come up with, hey, I'm dealing with this right now. So there's going to be somebody, if it's not me or Amelia, there's going to be somebody on that call that can help you, with your issue. So that's just kind of a what Amelia would say, Reader's Digest version of the AMA. So yeah.
So and that's I think you've hit on something that I think that other this is the next level for me, right?
Hmm.
It's kind of like getting a black belt, right? And I feel like in this world, I'm in
Hmm.
the middle ranks, which would in my karate world would be a blue or a green belt, right? I'm in the intermediate ranks now. I'm
Hmm.
not in the beginner ranks anymore. I'm in the intermediate. I'll graduate once it's published and we have our event. We'll
Okay.
start graduating in, and
Hmm.
then but in myself, and I tell all my students, if you're going for first degree black belt, you need to start thinking about what second degree black belt look like, because becoming the black belt is easy. Being a black belt is hard,
Mm.
and you got to continue training. And
Right.
so I've already in my head wanted to do another book but I want to do something that is more teachable, a book
Mm.
that you can also have an event with. You know what I'm saying? Um, you know, and I've already have kind of the it down, right? You know,
Mm-hmm.
10, you know, 10 easy black belt strategies for business and life, right?
Okay.
And then you have these 10 chapters about what this looks like, what it looks like on the mat, what it looks like here, what it looks like from the mat, what it looks like in business, you know, little things, you know, how you can get caught in a position and either you're going to tap out or you're going to figure a way out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So what's your thought on when it comes to writing books? If you want to make a business out of it,
Mm-hmm.
do you believe something like that is worth investing time in? A book of that type of nature.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of authors we do that have workbooks, right? Is that what you're kind of
Right.
getting at? Having a workbook, yeah, that's awesome for your type of business or whatever business you're in, sharing tips and tricks, let's say, of the trade, right? Of whatever it is you do. So that's an awesome idea,
Yeah.
definitely.
This is on the next one. So in your thing where it says, you know, the AMA, where because people are like, how am I going to make $1 million off writing a book? It's not just the writing of the book.
Mm-mm. No,
You
it's
know what I
what,
mean?
yeah, what I had just said. Like it's what sharing your story will attract, right? You're going to attract more connections. You're going to attract more business to, what it is you do. Speaking engagements. I mean, there's people that, get paid thousands for 1 hour speaking, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So imagine getting, you know, 2 or 3 of those a month. Add that up in a year. You know what I mean? So, that's what we're sharing with people is it's not just about selling the million copies of your book. It's what sharing your story and leveraging your story can bring to you and your business.
I have found that even in the podcast world, right? Because I invested a lot of money into having a professional looking podcast, right? I've got
Right.
lights on me and I've got top mics that I'm doing and you know, I have a studio inside my office here is where I do my podcasting
Mm-hmm.
and I wanted it looking professional, but I've been doing podcasting now for 3 years or more now, right? I started it more back in the pandemic and I was like, people think because you have a podcast that there's some authority that goes with it.
Mm-hmm.
And because I do it, I don't really realize how many people listen until you go look at your stats and you're like,
Right.
"Oh man, there's 10,000 listens to that. Holy
Yeah.
I can't believe that." And or how many people looked at the average of how many people listen to a podcast or whatever, but then people get to be on here and even yourself right now once I'll edit this to do audio also, then you're going to get to go share this on your network and say, hey, listen, here's a
Right.
podcast I did. We talked about books, talked about what I'm looking for and about it. You guys can go listen to it and you can get questions answered that you have.
Right.
And so I think that the book is the same thing. I think that was one of the main things you and Emilio told me in the beginning, and I didn't understand it until now. You know, in the last couple months of when you have a book,
Mm-hmm.
you're looked at like you have an authority in that area.
Exactly.
It's such a weird dynamic to me because
Mm-hmm.
I've experienced it now. You're writing a book. You wrote a book,
It's very
right?
impressive. It's like the
Right.
wow factor. Mm-hmm.
I guess it's the same thing as when people say you're a black belt for real.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And because not everybody does that, right? We,
Exactly.
I, in my world, everybody does it,
Yeah.
but outside the world, no, hardly anybody does it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, that was an amazing phenomenon for me, and because of your guys' company, it was able to even bring it to more to the forefront. So
Yeah.
let's talk about what's happening, what you guys are doing. Now, here's the next thing that you guys do for us, right? Here's your company,
Mm-hmm.
right? So you have co-author network. Now, I was able to do a speaking. You did one, what was it, 4 months back or
May
something like that?
14th. Yeah, May
May
14th.
14th.
Mm-hmm.
So I told you that I couldn't be there in person because I was at a test in Georgia. And I says,
Yeah.
hey, I'll get on and I'll do a virtual. Let me be one of the speakers and I'll do it virtually.
Yeah.
So I paid in for the speaker competition, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then that was your husband finally joined us. I
Oh,
don't know what he's
thank
been
you
doing.
for showing up.
Oh
No, he
my
had an appointment.
goodness.
He had an
Oh
appointment.
my
He's
gosh.
excused. You better watch the replay.
So um what I did is, so you guys had the speaker competition, and that was really a hard deal that I knew it would be hard for me to do any winnings because I can't engage with people. I'm better
Right.
like when I can see you face to face and I can crack some jokes
Mm-hmm.
or you can see an emotions on somebody's face, or your voice will get a little bit lower, and
Yeah.
or your excitement will come up, or however that looks. I know you were talking about me. This is Emilio. Of course, we're talking about you. Duh.
Mm.
Come on, Emilio.
Hello.
We were talking about how you eat crayons a little while ago. That's what we were talking about. So so when I did that speaker competition, this is the other thing about your company that's awesome, right? So you hold these events and allow us, because me personally, where I'm at in my, I like to get on the mat and I like to teach, I'm trying to turn the business side over to my son a little bit more, so that, he can run the school and I can do what I do. Like, I like to teach. I want to go out and promote this book. I want to start speaking. That's what I want to do. So, and so that's where, and then you guys give this opportunity, and then we can start fine tuning those skills, because that's the next skill set, right? Is to how do you come across? And it was important for me to get the feedback and I got good feedback. I didn't win that competition, but I got good feedback.
Oh, you did amazing.
That the room was moved, even though I couldn't see it, and that kind of pushed me forward. Even in my book, I talk about this, right? Motivation and discipline are two different things, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you learn more from your losses than you ever do from your wins, but you need your wins in order to move you forward. And that was, even though I didn't win a trophy or whatever, I did win at the point that, okay, I moved the audience, so now I'm going to have to get a little bit better. And if we're going to have to, virtually, you're going to have to get better. There's just no other way around it. You know what I mean? Because virtual is the thing that's happening these days. Tony Robbins does it. Yeah. Tony Robbins got 10 million people watching him now. He can fill up a virtual stadium bigger than any stadium that he's been in.
Right.
Right. And he does, of course, he's a professional speaker, but he does a fantastic job. I watch him constantly when he's on thing, and he's really good at what he does. And so you guys got another speaker competition, correct? That's coming up for us to try.
Yep, okay. November 5th and 6th, and you're going to be a part of that. It's going to be on the 6th, actually. The virtual event is November 5th and 6th, but that Sunday between 12 noon and 2 is the speaker competition, and there's still a couple spots available for that. So that is, I have the trophy if you give me a second. I think it has your name on it, Mark.
It does.
Yeah. Oh, look at that. Emilio had your name scratched. He scratched it in with crowns.
Of course he did. Of course he did.
Mark,
the only problem is he probably spelled it wrong. Because Marines and all. You know what I mean?
Well,
you know.
That's just how it is. But
so
yes, this and $1,000 cash prize. So
right. So so I signed up for this speaker competition now. And this one, which is awesome this time, is I've looked a little bit about on what it's going to look like, because it's all virtual, correct?
Yeah, this one is virtual, yeah.
Right? But on a little different. Remember, we spoke on it about, what it's like for me, and I can't see the audience, but this time it's going to be more like on a Zoom type of call where you can see the audience.
It'll be better for you. Yeah.
Right. It'd be better where you can interact and you can laugh and you can carry on. But I think I'm going to try and up the competition. I think on that day I'm driving to Savannah and I'm going to do my virtual spot from Riverwalk.
Oh, okay.
So my background will be the Riverwalk in Savannah, right? In Savannah, Georgia. So it's either that or I'm going to this really old graveyard.
Geez.
Right. That they have there. Right. And I'm going to do it from the graveyard.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to speak about.
Yeah, what are you going to speak about, Mark?
Well, we could speak about how final death is, and if you don't get your dreams in order, this is where you stay, and this is where your dreams are buried with you. I thought about that.
Yes, Les Brown's quoting. Yeah, a lot of people say that. Yeah.
And so I don't know, but I'm already kind of gearing up because Jose just came on here.
Yeah.
And I plan on kicking the fire out of Jose in that competition anyway.
Yeah, I'm not
Um,
sure he's competing that weekend. I don't
oh,
think he is.
it's okay because he doesn't
Yeah.
like second place.
No,
Um, so
you guys.
this,
That's funny.
listen,
Mhm.
we talk so much smack to each other, it's not even funny,
Oh, I'm sure.
you know. So I
Yeah. So
told him that's why he doesn't want to do martial arts because he keeps smoking these cigars all the time and putting all
uh,
this garbage. Same with Emilio. So,
yeah, don't get
um,
me started on that. Yeah. Ugh. So
so,
anyway, moving along.
um,
Thanks, Jose. Yeah.
so yeah, so I think that I appreciate you guys as coaches on how you put events on and then
Yeah.
you put stuff. Now here, let me just I want to get real with everybody if I can,
Hmm.
see Jose talking smack.
It won't be
Won't be
available like you
available,
didn't want
but you
it,
didn't
Mark.
want it, Mark.
Okay.
Hey, some people are scared, bro. Everybody
It is.
needs the first loser,
Mhm.
which is second place. So it's okay, bro.
It's all good.
I'm glad you saved that for someone else. Um, so the you guys give us this opportunity. So let me just tell everybody that if you guys are doing things like this, and not just in Co-Author Network or the AMA, what you guys are doing, this is just in general. If you want to get excel in something, you've got to put yourself out there.
Right.
And if there's something new, sign up for it. Whether you're scared to do it doesn't matter, right? It's about
Hmm.
it's about the process and it's about doing, not about wish I was doing, because you're
Right.
going to wish yourself to death, right?
Yeah.
And then that's what's going to happen, and you just don't want to see that.
Hmm.
And I think that people, if they would put that perspective out there, they if the opportunity is there, do it. It doesn't matter if you crash and burn,
Right.
okay? Because you're
At
not
least
going to
you did
crash
it.
and burn every single time. You're just
Mm-mm.
not, you know. Because I remember, even some of my early tournament days, man. And you want to talk about crash and burn? Oh my
Hmm.
gosh.
Hmm.
Okay. Everybody lives. I tell everybody, you live a Facebook life. You got filters on. You had the highlight of your day, which
Yeah.
lasted 30 seconds,
Hmm.
and the rest of the day was shit. So, right, and so you're fighting with your spouse or whatever, and the day sucks. But this Facebook clip is awesome, right? This is how my life is, and so I
Hmm.
encourage people that hey, if it's going to be, if you're going to go after it, man, get after it and
Yeah.
and try it out. Put your feet in. If you got two more spots out there, and anybody's listening to
Yep.
this, I think you ought to get a hold of Emilio and Daniela and and sign up for it and do your thing.
Yeah.
So I
It's the only
appreciate
way
that.
we
I
learn
appreciate
and
that from
grow.
you guys as
Hmm.
coaches being able to put things out there for us to kind of give a try to.
Exactly. That's
So
that's why we do this. So, people learn and they grow. And if you don't win, the first time and then you try again, you just get better and better. There's no downside to it. You're only going to keep getting better.
right, yeah, absolutely true, absolutely true. I was looking through some other stuff too. It's funny. I went along. I was watching somebody about to make yourself better at speaking, right? And then, so they had some 4 bullet points, and one of them was just turn the video off and listen to yourself. Then turn the sound off and watch your video
Mm,
with no sound,
okay.
which sucks because you're just like, what the,
Yeah.
And then, because I'm my own worst critic anyway. And then what you do is you transcribe and you look at how many times, because I even here I recognize it when I'm going and this
Right.
and then you transcribe and you start taking a red marker and looking at everything every time you do it, you're like, oh my goodness,
Right.
you know. So you can't really do those things in the public speaking. Here it's like how we're just having a conversation back and forth. On my
Right.
podcast, it's just I try and make everybody kind of comfortable and we just kind of talk back and forth and
Hmm.
have some coffee.
Hmm.
And by the way, Emilio, I do have your cup on today. You see that?
Yep.
Um,
Representing. Mark's representing.
That's correct. I should have wore the AMA shirt. Unfortunately, I wore my cop shirt today. These are the El Monte Police Department cops that were killed.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if you guys know that. My jiu-jitsu instructor, that was his partners that were killed. That could have been my
Oh,
jiu-jitsu
wow.
instructor that day. He works for the
Oh,
El Monte Police Department. It was a brutal thing that happened. So,
yeah, I remember you
but
posting. That's terrible.
so let's do the last thing here, Danielle, because we're coming up on an hour now.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about this little cooking thing that you do.
Hey, it's not little.
Okay. So, what made you there's no way you can do all that and be on 75 hard. That is a guarantee.
No, I can because you know what? I don't eat 90% of what I make. I'm that
Well, you might be
person that
able to. There's no way Emilio's doing 75 hard when you're cooking that stuff at home. Okay.
no.
Emilio will be 75 soft. That's what
Yeah.
he's going to be. Okay.
Right.
And so,
hmm
the, so let's talk about what made you decide to do this little business, or did you have a restaurant before? Is that what you had?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, backstory, I've been cooking since I'm like 7, 8 years old. I already told you, growing up with my dad, that Italian, everything was homemade. My mom was, a stay-at-home mom. Everything was homemade. So I had to stay next to her and my grandmother and, watch them cook and learn at an early age. But the thing was, to me, even at that early age, it was never like a chore. Like I enjoyed it from then. And that just kind of, through my whole life as a teenager, as, early adulthood, I was always like whoever, whatever events were going on, or weddings or parties, I was catering it. So I really enjoyed it. And then I did have a restaurant for 20 years at the University of Pennsylvania, which is over here in PA. So I did that, and I used to do catering. So now that's just my passion, right? So what I'm doing here with Emilio and the books, this is our business, but I had to follow like where my heart is, and I just love cooking. I love creating, meals and feeding people. Emilio could attest to that, So, but here's the thing: everything I make, this is what I do. Even though they look fattening, whatever, I have healthy alternatives. So that's what what my kind of specialty is. I have healthy alternatives to lasagna or meatballs or whatever is people look at as fattening. So, but yeah, that's kind of where I'm at now because I want to again own a space in the city or even here in New Jersey and have my own place again. So that's really
Oh,
my
so
goal.
you're trying to aspire to go back to getting that, huh?
But not a big restaurant or anything like that. I
Right.
want like a cafe type, where I can serve maybe 10, 15 of my items, but have, and also, multi-purpose, have it as a place to have book signings and readings and, you know what I mean? So kind of
Oh,
a
that's kind of,
two
yeah,
thing.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So we have a little thing here that opened up right here in my town, Chatsworth, right?
hmm
It's called Muscle Macros. It's a little
hmm
tiny place that you can sit there and eat, but maybe 6 people at a time can eat in there. But
Okay.
that's where I get my meals. I
hmm
pick them up every Sunday for the week,
Okay.
and um, and just so easy and a healthy way of
Great.
being able to eat, so you just don't eat fast food all the time. And you are
Yeah.
correct. I've seen some of the meals, and absolutely can be keto for sure, 100%. Because
hmm
I'm not keto life guy, but
hmm
it's fun to watch. But when I see like the Philly cheesesteaks shoved in that big bun, and I'm like, mm-mm.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
can't even look at it. I mean, man, I'll be like the Oompa Loompa girl, that purple girl, if I even look at that kind of carbs. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's something that in my life I talk about a little bit in my book. I've always been kind of a big guy, and
Mhm.
I was lifting weights when I was 12 years old. You know what I mean? So I really wasn't fat per se in junior high school, but I was
Right.
certainly bigger than everybody else. So if I stand in line, my shoulders are out here, my arms are
Mhm.
bigger than everybody's. And but
Mhm.
then I got into powerlifting out of school, and I was just like, there wasn't any of this type of thing. It was just like eat and lift heavy stuff. And that's
Yeah.
what I did, right? So I didn't have a bodybuilder's build by any means. Not like Amelia. Amelia went the bodybuilder route, and I
Yeah.
didn't really have that. So you get fat over time, and I've always been kind of a heavy athlete. It's kind of weird. If you look at me, you're like, there's no way that this guy does martial arts, right?
Mhm.
And then I can kick you right in the face if you're 6'2", and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, don't judge books by its cover.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really that's one thing I've learned over the years is you do
Mhm.
I don't discount what anybody can do, man, because I've had it from
Exactly.
all gamuts, man. And
Mhm.
so it's fun to watch you go after your passion. I didn't really know you had that passion that you wanted to do something up like that again.
Mhm.
I mean,
Yeah.
I think that's just what it is. I
Mhm.
think that's why I want to do the speaking part, right? As much as I love teaching, and I love to teach, if I could just teach, I'd be awesome, right? It's running the business that just drives me crazy,
Yeah.
right? And if I could just If I was a philanthropist, nobody would pay for lessons. I would just have the doors open and we just going to teach
Yeah.
and not have to worry about money. And unfortunately, that's not the case. So I see that you're putting out there now. Now is it a chore for you to work every day? Are you doing it every day, or are you just doing kind of 3-4 days a week?
Right now, it's just weekend, like Friday and Saturdays, but I'm
Friday
going
and
to increase
Saturdays.
that. Yeah, especially for
Uh-huh.
holidays coming. I want to have like holiday specials and stuff like that. But right now, yeah, I have it 2 days, but I will expand that. Yeah.
So I think we have somebody else, right? Isn't it Raul's girl? She has the same last name as
Jessica.
you do. She has the same
Yeah.
last name as you guys,
Yeah.
right? I think she does cupcakes or something to that effect, right? She
She
does something
does
like that.
everything, baking, yeah, cakes and
Yeah.
cupcakes, you name it. She does amazing work. Yeah, she's in
Yeah.
Florida. Yeah, she does
Yeah.
amazing stuff.
It's awesome. I can't wait. So our event that we're going to be doing, let's tell everybody when that event is. It's going to be
The January 6th and 7th Business Book Camp. Yep, that's here in Cherry Hill, New Jersey, and there are still general tickets available. And also, I believe Amelia said there's about 2 sponsorship opportunities available, which real quickly is a 4-day access pass and your logo on the banner. You have access to the pre-event, the post-event, and those 2 days in between, and 3 minutes on stage to share who you are and what you do. So, if you're interested in, becoming a sponsor, reach out, or general tickets, 197, or going up actually to 297. So that was our price for the regular VIPs a couple months ago, and the VIPs are sold out. So yeah, but that's going to
yeah.
be
So
an amazing event.
how many people you think we're going to be having there for this
Oh,
event?
at least 150, if not more. Yeah.
Yeah. See, I'm looking forward to that because we're going to get. I think I got about 25 copies of a book that's going to come.
Mm-hmm.
Luckily, you guys gonna let me get on stage. I'm gonna smash some things for people. We'll have some fun.
Brick breaking.
Uh, uh, that is something that it's funny. I'm going next week to do some brick breaking because I haven't done
Oh,
it for a while. Right? I only do it
okay.
once a year at a Christmas parade. I'll put maybe 10,
Uh,
15 bricks up and I'll smash them. And you know, but I haven't done it in a sequence where I can, because I do some fun stuff, right? I'll
mm-hmm.
put glasses on and we'll have the rock music go. I think Raul will be there doing music, right?
Oh yeah, he's there.
Yeah, so I'll
Yep.
be able to, you know, uh,
Yeah, let him know what you want played.
yeah, I do it to Great
Mhm.
Balls of Fire sometimes, right? I'll get up there
Oh,
and I'll put the glasses on, Great Balls of Fire, and I'll have my cut off sleeves and have a big time like I'm still back in my 20s, even though I'm in my 60s. Um,
that's all right. That'll
but
be fun.
that'd be a fun time. So.
Oh yeah, we're
All
looking
right,
forward
so
to it.
Daniela, we're kind of past our hour a little bit. I want to be
Yes,
respectful of your time. We spoke about your book. We've got
yes.
your events that you've done, events that are coming up. If there's
Hmm.
anybody else that wants to get a hold of you, if you're in, what city are you in? If they want to try your food, where's that at?
Yes, I'm in Cherry Hill, New Jersey, but the surrounding area and even Philly. So we're right
Yeah,
by.
so you guys are affiliated. So
Hmm.
I'm coming in specifically early. I don't know if you guys know this, but I am a Rocky fanatic.
Oh yeah, who
It's
isn't?
my favorite movie.
Love it.
I
Hmm.
watch it almost every time I fly. If Rocky, believe it or not, they have Rocky on quite often on the
Hmm.
airplanes. I
Hmm.
will watch Rocky on a flight. I love the original and the end, the Rocky Balboa. I love Rocky and Rocky Balboa. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Those are my favorites. You know what he is as an
Hmm.
older guy and just like
Yeah.
life, right?
Hmm.
And so I'm doing them steps, even with my bum knee. I don't care if I have to do it one at a time, going
Oh
up
yeah,
those
we're
things.
doing it.
I'm doing
Amelia
that.
already
So
let me know. Yeah,
yeah, we're gonna be.
that'll be
I'm
cool.
definitely doing that. So. All
Awesome.
right. So I'm going to let you guys go, and I'll have this in audio format here by end of day for you guys. I was, now that the book's finished on my side of it, I have time to do the other stuff that I got to do. So I'll make sure this gets
Mhm.
edited. I'll have it out in audio. You guys share it with your family. If you guys are looking for food in that area, you guys hit up Daniela. If you guys are trying to write a book, okay, called Co-Author Network,
Yes.
you speak to them about what that's going to look like. Are you guys going to launch it? Can anybody come in at any time with Co-Author Network and not be part of this? Or are you guys waiting to launch another,
Oh
like,
no.
this is a group? Anybody can be part of Co-Author
Yeah, they
Network,
can join at any time to get their book done. Whenever they want. It doesn't have to be part of our live launch. No.
right?
Hmm.
So do you think that's something you guys could do on a yearly now? Is the business book camp going to be a yearly event?
Oh
Is
yeah,
that what you guys are planning?
it is. Yeah, we had our first one last January, and now, as you know, the second one this January. So most likely every January. Yeah.
So this is the second one. What'd you learn from the first one that's going to make the second one better?
Um, I'd say, well, probably even promoting more. Like we have been really, yeah, and we started early. We started right after that January one was over. We started promoting and selling tickets. We're almost going on a year now that we're promoting this. Back then, I think we did it in a matter of a few months. So
Ah,
that was huge. And we had a great outcome. I mean, it was a great turnout, but yeah, you learn some things. And also that one, we served food a little too late in the day and people were just like chewing their arms off. So we're like, yeah, okay, we're we gotta serve fruit earlier. So this is a whole different venue and it's gonna be awesome. We have breakfast, lunch, everything. So it's gonna be awesome.
all right. Well, that sounds fun, man. I'm looking forward to it, guys.
Yes,
We're gonna have a big time. I'm looking to get my hand wrapped around Emilio's neck one more time. We're
I'll
gonna
be
get
there with
that
the camera.
picture. Yeah, we'll get a picture of it,
Yes.
and Jose.
Oh, definitely.
We'll see if we. And I want him to wear his little gold print shoes while I do it. So that's what I'm looking forward to.
Oh my God, Mark is too funny.
All right, man. I sure
Awesome.
appreciate you guys, man. I love you guys.
Thank
Thanks
you,
for having
Mark.
me part of your family, and we'll talk real soon. Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye
Bye
bye.
bye.